So Lake Fear 2 is the story of a bunch of spring breakers who get in the wrong place at the wrong time, and one by one, or sometimes two by two, get slashed the F up. This definitely is a slasher. This is part of the Lake Fear series, technically, but the one that feels most different from 1 and 3 when I binged them before, like for the first time binging them. 1 and 3 definitely have the same vibes, so you can tell that they kind of, I don't wouldn't say go together, but they definitely feel the same. This one definitely seemed like the lost child of the trilogy, and that's because it has another name. It's the Everglades killings. So they threw on the Lake Fear name just to make it a trilogy. A lot of films do that. So you're watching this and it's like, this doesn't feel like a Lake Fear film whatsoever, but that's because it was the Everglades killings, sorry. And it's annoying when that happens because it's complete false advertising. I mean, there's not even a crocodile in this movie, for God's sakes. Get ripped apart on spring break. You think it's going to be a creature feature, but it's not. When they say get ripped apart, they mean slasher style. So the first time I watched this film, I think I watched it in the really wrong mood. I was not feeling very good, and I was feeling like low on life, you could say. And then I popped this on, and this film is so vicious and so savage and heartless that it just left me feeling even more shitty. This is the second time I've watched this film, and I enjoyed it a little bit more tonight. It's really great with the music and the slasher kind of not synth, but the slasher style music in it. They do a really good job with that, and the acting is mediocre. But we'll get into the plot synopsis because it's actually really, really simple. It starts off very stereotypical. You got your beach scenes and, the jock and your hot ass girls in bikinis and really corny dialogue when it comes to, young kids wanting to sleep with each other and like, I think that guy's cute and you should like avoid that guy and yada yada yada. One girl ends up being pregnant and she's trying to figure it out with a pregnancy test, which is kind of the wrong place to want to find that kind of information out, is at spring break for sure. But it's very stereotypical. There's a bar scene that they go to get wasted, and then they start talking to the bartenders, and the bartenders mention to one of the guys that there's like a tourist attraction where they can take these kids out on the lake to check out some pythons, and they even offer them a $500 reward to anybody who can catch a python. So them being drunk and them being, wanting to experience different things, they say yes to this opportunity, and then they go on this lake expedition. Actually, one of the bartenders is played by Linnea Quigley. I actually didn't really recognize her in the role, but I saw her in the credits, and I was looking out for her, but I couldn't recognize her. But yeah, after looking up the information, she was playing one of the bartenders. So they go out. They meet this really, really creepy captain. His name is Henry. And as soon as they get to like the port or whatever you want to call it, he's like, "Oh, we're closed for the day" and stuff like that. But depending on how many girls you have, maybe I can make an exception. And he has this like weird, thick, like southern accent. I'm assuming this film takes place in Florida. It's just a guess because of the beach environment that they were at, plus the swamps and the swamp area. I would say Louisiana, but I don't think there's too many beaches around there. So Florida is my best guess. And they meet this creepy ass guy, and he's saying like he's just looking at the girls, and he has this thick accent that you can barely understand, and he's so stereotypical. But they offer him a bribe, and then he takes them down through the rivers and swamp areas and stuff like that. He's showing them, the snakes. He takes them to this area where there's these abandoned like cabins, and he starts to say like people kind of squat here or whatever, and we kind of stay away from this area because the people are extremely dangerous, yada yada, and they're thinking it's like a tourist like scary story or whatever. But he basically says that you don't want to trust anybody around here, and then when he says it's time to go, he basically collapses from a heart attack, and the guys are like, what the fuck? They're stuck in the middle of nowhere in this swamp. They have no idea what to do, and they basically run off. They start getting terrified. They start wanting to, fight each other and all that stuff. And they go into refuge in one of these cabins that seems completely abandoned. They find a generator in there. They find some moonshine in there, decide to party their asses off and drink it because you would think that finding fresh moonshine should be a clue that this place is not abandoned, but you know, Spring Break 2015. I think this was released in either 2016 or 2017, one of those. But and you know, they just party in there until these wild ass hillbilly brothers come along. Also, the guy that had the heart attack didn't have a heart attack. He was pretending the whole time. And it's funny because he even mentions one of the guys like checking his pulse when he did, and apparently couldn't feel anything. He's like, you know, I totally got them. They didn't suspect a thing. They even checked my neck and everything. And he's talking to these two brothers because he knows them, and he was basically setting the kids up to be massacred by these guys. These guys are vicious, like I said. It's not even funny. And very, very stereotypical, like hillbilly hick style. I love the quote one of them says, like, I don't understand these kids, why would they want to take a break from spring? That's nothing I get. I don't get it at all. And then Henry's like, yeah, you know what? Educated idiots. That's what they are. It's like, why would you want to take a break from spring? Spring's the best season of the year, man. Why would anybody want to take a break from the best season of the year? And it's really, really funny. For up to that part. And that's the thing. The film is actually kind of hilarious and stereotypical teen horror movie in the first and like part of the second act. It's just, you really just think you know exactly what you're going to expect, but you don't. I mean, you don't. When this film gets slashing, I don't know too many films this vicious. I watched Touristas, and I mean, it kind of starts in that same vein where you got these kids partying in Brazil, and then shit starts to happen, and they lose their passports and all that shit, and then shit hits the fan, and the third act of that film gets pretty vicious too. But this one's worse. I mean, this is a heavy ass watch. You know, one guy gets killed by getting plastic put around his face, and he's suffocating, and then after like a minute and a half, the guy opens up his mouth so he can gasp, and he's like, and then immediately he dunks his head into a barrel of water, and since he's out of breath, he can't help but like gasp more, right? So he drowns faster. I was like, man, that is one way to take somebody out. I also liked one of the girls, actually, I forgot to mention. I didn't get her name. I only got a few characters' names in this film because there's so many. They definitely set up a lot of kids to be slashed and hacked and other things I'll get to. But this one girl, she's basically the vlogger. She's always making vlogs on her phone, and she was so cute. Easily the hottest of the bunch. There's always that one girl that you see and you're like, that's the one I want. You know, out of the whole crowd, you're like, that's the girl. That's the one I'm going for. She's that girl. She has these cute ass glasses. The bathing suit she was wearing, oh my good God, it was like orange and glow in the dark. And her bottom half was just like so low that the tiniest bit was covered, and that's it. But we're here to review the movie, not the girls. Well, I guess the girls, but movie review time. They're part of the movie, so it counts, whatever. The bar scene at the beginning, too. This film, like I said, it starts off very stereotypical and then turns out very not stereotypical. The bar scene at the beginning like goes on for like good 5-10 minutes of twerking and wet t-shirt contests and just horny guys, and it's pretty awesome. It's very spring break for sure. But yeah, so there's that dude's kill. One girl's tied up to the ground, and she gets not just a hammer, but one of those like massive hammers that you're supposed to like, you know, push spikes to the ground. She gets one of those things right to the skull, and her head like smashed like a watermelon. It's vicious, like crazy. Outside of kills, there is one shower scene that I liked where this girl is full frontal naked. So you do see a lot of full frontal in this film. and there's the nice guy who she tells to turn around and not peek. And I'm like, what do you do? Like, you want to be the nice guy in that situation, but it's so tempting when you have this girl like taking a shower and you could just like slowly. It's like, do you do it? It's like that moral code. It's like, do I? Ugh, I feel so guilty. And you try to take one and then like look away. And then you just hope to God that she's not like facing you and catches you. But it's so hard. You want to be like, you want to not do it, but at the same time, you're in such a tempting situation. And a lot of times they wanted to. They just wanted like be like, hey, no peeking. But you know, you want to not do it. Lesson learned: don't do it. Don't. But it's very tempting. And then the most brutal kills. Like this film just goes for it. Does things that I've well, it does one thing that I've never seen. Have you ever seen when a guy does the R to another girl in a film where he's forcing himself on her and like where it's really vicious, like irreversible or I spit on your grave or last house on the left or a really vicious RAPE scene. Have you ever seen that from a guy done to another guy? Because I haven't. I've never seen a film where a guy forces himself viciously on another guy in the same vein as I spit on your grave. But it happens in this film, and one of the brothers ties the kid up to the. His name is Patrick. He was the guy that was trying to not peek at the girl. Has him all ready to go with like an apple in his mouth, and then the hillbilly comes behind him and he's like, "Okay, honey, you ready for this? You gonna like? I'm gonna make it hurt so good. I'm gonna make it hurt so bad." And then he goes for it, and it's not like it's not cutaway. It's not lightened down. Like he's hollering, and it's disgusting. And the first time I watched that, I was like, I've never seen something like that. Like it makes me feel it from my perspective, because I'm always like thinking about how the girl feels and how horrible that is. But when you watch it from like something happened like where you can actually insert yourself into the situation, it's fucked up. But that, like I said, that's the first scene ever, and I don't think I've ever seen a guy do that to another guy in a movie where it's that vicious. At least maybe it's hinted, but I honestly can't remember like a specific time. And then you have the very ending with the pregnant girl, where the two brothers go very satanic, and we start going very the Last Exorcism, and they tie the girl to a crucifix, and then they put her up upside down, and then they put like like a blood in a plus or a cross on her belly, and then they cut her belly open, and then they remove the fetus from the pregnant girl, which doesn't make any realistic sense because she's way too early in the like she just found out, so there's not going to be really anything in there. But they remove something and then they put something in the fire, and then the film ends that way. And that scene was the one that really got me last time and really just made me really depressed and really sick. Because I watched this film at the wrong time. I have no problem with horror films. I've seen a lot. But I forgot to mention the guy that was getting forced on. He's also murdered while it happens. So the guy finishes, and then the guy stabs him in the back to death while he's finishing. And the only time I've ever seen that happen, not to a guy but to a girl, was in a Serbian film, which is one of the most infamously disgusting films ever made, and still today the only film that I had to shut off. The only film ever that I had to shut off. Not because of that scene. I watched that scene, no problem. It was horrific, but I watched it and I got through it. But something happens in that movie that it's the only film I've ever had to shut off, and it's the only film that I would have walked out of a theater if I was watching it in one. But that's that's another topic. Maybe I'll watch that film again and review it. I don't know though. No guarantees on that one. But yeah, I mean, this film's vicious. It's a great slasher. It's got great music, and it's got beyond great kills. And outside of the really disturbing like aspect of them, the kills are actually good. There's this guy named Tyler who He plays like every douchebag that everybody knows in these kind of movies. Apparently, he got the girl pregnant who dies at the end on that crucifix death. Even though he's dating a girl throughout the film, so he's with her in bed. She refuses to fuck him, so he's just like, "Fuck you, bitch," and he leaves because he's like that. And then he goes to talk to the pregnant girl and tries to fuck her, and then she tells him that he's pregnant or she's pregnant, and it's very likely his. And she's like, "No, can't it be Derek's? Because weren't you dating?" And she's like, "We've never had sex." So obviously they paint her out to be, maybe not the best choice making person in the world. And they obviously paint him out to be the worst piece of shit in the world. But, yeah, it is what it is. Yeah, like I said, the two halves of this film, you got the first half, which is just the way you kick off any 90s teen horror where people are, young college kids are partying and getting wasted and twerking and everything. These girls twerk at the beginning in the bar scene for so long, like slow motion, just twerk, twerk, twerk. Never been the biggest twerk fan. I'm not even gonna lie, I've never been the biggest twerk fan. I'm not into like very thick, very jiggly booty. I like bubble butt, like full bubble, firm and bubble, like not thick booty, thick hip. You know, kind of that, like the twerking style, like the whole like up and down. No, curve and firm and like firm cheeks and like puffy, like just the perfect shape. Yes, that's what I like. But again, movie review, not girl review. Not talking about my type. We're talking about Lake Fear 2, The Swamp, which it's not really false advertising because, like I said, there is a swamp in it and people do get ripped apart. But it's about hillbillies. It's not really a creature feature. One guy does get mauled by a snake and drowned by having the thing pull it under the water. So it's that, but it's definitely not anywhere close to what Lake Fear 1 and Lake Fear 3 is. That's because it was called the Everclear Murders. I didn't write it down. I just looked it up before I started the recording. I think it's the Everclear Murders or Everclear Murders, the Everclear Killings. That's it. Everclear Killings. And they just, like I said, threw that name on it to get it a little bit more popularity, I guess. It's the better of the three. Like, it's way better than Lake Fear and Lake Fear 3 from what I remember, but we'll be getting to Lake Fear 3, so I'll be talking about that. And I had a good time with it, as vicious as certain scenes are. That last scene is disgusting, I'm telling you. It's, it's horrendous. But that's about all I got on Lake Fear 2, The Swamp, or the Everclear Killings. You can see a little bit of horrificness back there. Don't want to show too much, just in case that ends up having me flagged, but I'll leave it at that. I basically covered everything that I could think of. You know who you are if you're getting into this kind of film. And if you've seen it already, you know exactly what I'm talking about. And let me know if it's the most vicious film you've ever seen, because it's in my top 3 or top 5 at least. You have your extreme movies. I'm not saying anything. The Guinea Pigs, which I haven't seen. A Serbian film, which I unfortunately have. But for a slasher, it's one of the like higher end disgusting ones. So yeah, we'll be getting into Lake Fear 3 soon. I remember I only watched it once. I remember it being very similar to the first in style. Yeah, I look forward to watching it again because I don't remember it too fondly. Like I don't have a big memory on it, so it'll be fun to revisit. So subscribe to Morgan Film Fan if you like to listen to my voice or if you like my film reviews, and I'll be back for more when I can, so stay tuned if you're interested. Until next one, take care and cheers.